There we go.
Hey.
That should do. I think I even have the microphone set properly this time so we can get both sides of the audio without too much trouble. Let me see if I can pull up that unified chat again there. All right, so we've got our YouTube links pasted in there. We've got chat going. We should be good to go, I think.
Can everyone hear me this time?
That's a good question.
I haven't been good at looking at the camera properly. Yeah. I keep looking at you.
Well, that's fine. I mean, who wouldn't?
Right. I mean, yeah. God, we're really gross.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm really
what are you going to do? Kevin Clark says yes. So presumably everybody can hear you. So that's good. Let me see if I can just pull into the... Yeah, there we go. Kaylin's got us. Joe's got us. All right. Joe leading us off with the... I like to think of it as a Prince reference. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. Electric Word Life. Lasts a mighty long time.
Such positive memories with that, of the kids in marching band.
Yes. A few years back, our kids did Fallen Stars. It was the year we lost Prince and somebody from the Eagles. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
I want to say Joe Walsh, but in any event. And they did a whole marching band show that was dedicated to that, and leading really off with...
rough year. I mean, I'm sorry. We lost a lot of people that year. Sorry. It's a rough year.
So, I'm Mike.
I'm Kelly.
And this is Fight2Flight, and we are our polished selves as we always are. Your weekly dose of self-care and hopefully a little bit of humor and just kind of sharing our lives together because we're both very interested in chronic health stuff. I'm a respiratory therapist specializing in chronic respiratory problems.
I'm a nurse practitioner, a family nurse practitioner by board certification, history, cardiopulmonary critical care, rapid response, hospitalist, obesity and metabolic medicine, family practice at a rural health center on Beaver Island, and now clinical research in Kalamazoo.
So it's been a long road getting from there to here.
You'd reference that song from a Star Trek series.
Well, you have to. I mean, you have to. You got to get those Star Trek references in where you can.
He does.
Karen, it is, as of right now, we have a little bit of a heat wave. It was down in single digits this morning, I believe. But right now, we've got a balmy 28 here in southwestern Michigan. So there we go. So... for those of you who are new, we did this for a while last year in the midst of the pandemic. Was it last? No, 2 years ago.
It's been a while.
2 years ago.
Can we see this in real time?
Well, we can see it in as close to real time as possible. I can put it on that screen if that makes you feel better.
Well, the last time, that's the one on the delay over there. And then.
Oh, you want to see the actual one?
Yeah, I want to try to look at with my giant big ol' eyes, I just look over like this, and it's kind of creepy.
So your giant big ol' eyes, look at that giant big ol' eye right there.
Okay.
What I need to do is get some of my googly eyes back. I think I still have some of those. I'll put the googly eyes up on and maybe get the other camera working. Oh, we could get real high speed and get the two cameras going, because you're going to have our big project ongoing right now is Kelly occasionally is able to work from home, and so I kind of set up this little station here when I started working from home. About 15 months ago, and I won't say fantastic because sometimes it's a little weird, but it's great for one person. But now we've got two people, and we're trying to make that work. So now we'll be real fancy YouTube podcasters, and we'll have our dual camera set up, and we'll go all out.
Let's do it.
All right.
Nope, can't claim that, but I'd say let's talk about that. Name that YouTube channel.
Are you asking me, or is that a challenge?
No, that's a challenge.
Oh, okay. The Kelly Swellies out there, which we now have the name for the fandom as of last week. Not the Nesters anymore, but the Kelly Swellies.
Kelly's Swellies.
Kelly's Swellies. There we go. All right.
I love you all for capturing that. Yeah.
Karen does say Burr. Yeah. Imagine down in, I was talking, I have a coworker who's out in San Diego, and we noticed while we were on a call the other day that she had a sweater on and she just like a hot tea and all that stuff. And we were kind of chuckling. It's like, it must have gotten down to about 60 degrees. And she said, yeah, it's 62. And so she had to bundle up. So
that's dreamy weather for me. Kaylin Jones wins for Good Mythical Morning. Let's talk about that.
Well done.
Anyway, well done.
So Kim says, leading off with a nice compliment today. You're beautiful.
Thank you. This is unabashed. I get all verklempt. Name that skit from Saturday Night Live in the 80s.
So we talked last week about how themes emerge when we do these. I think today's theme is just pop culture references.
Right. That works.
So one other thing we got to shout out is perhaps a little bit less good news. COVID has finally come to our immediate sphere. One of our kids over at their mom's house this week did have a close contact and did unfortunately test positive with a PCR test today for COVID. So hopefully Chaos will get better very quickly. She's doing all right. Double vaccinated, not yet boosted, but doing okay, and hopefully be able to recover quickly. So if you have some positive vibes, thoughts, prayers, all the good stuff, please send them out our way so that we can get everybody happy and healthy again. Hopefully you're not dealing with too much of that in your sphere. So, speaking of, let's talk about that. What should we talk about today? I was saying in the previews, we've had kind of a chill week. It's been kind of nice to figure out where we are, where we're going, that kind of thing.
I feel really blessed. I mean, I have loved every moment on the island. I love still knowing and connecting with people there. I hope that this and other ways when we're there will allow that. I absolutely adore my team here in Kalamazoo, and thank you, Kim, for connecting me. I mean, I could cry. I mean, I feel so blessed with my whole career, but especially now. And so I think it will be a lot easier for me to get healthy and find balance again. So I'm feeling nothing but gratitude. I'm a little bit more balanced and feeling a little better. I'm a little bit less the dude today versus last week. But I will say this because I am a good sport and a supporter of you. There was a big thing that happened this week on the tennis courts.
There was a big thing that happened on the tennis courts.
Just go for it, honey. You have just with reckless abandon. Please.
So for the third time, I believe, in roughly the 5 to 6 years that we've been playing, we did take some time off just for injuries and pandemic.
We already talked about that. Yeah.
But I actually did successfully beat Kelly Becker in tennis. Not only beat her, but at one I got 7 games in a row. I started absolutely terribly in the first 3 and then just rattled off a whole stream of them. So, and speaking of, guess who won the Australian Open? We haven't been following tennis much, but guess who won?
Oh, who?
Rafa.
Oh, good.
Oh, Kevin Clark throwing back with verklempt.
Thank you. Well done, Kevin Clark.
But yeah,
even with the name, that's impressive.
So yeah, I would not have gotten the name. I remember Mike Myers was for talk amongst yourselves. Thank you, Kevin. It was a good moment because you would hear this is kind of a theme that occurred to me while you were talking about your new role and all that sort of thing, because this was a week where a lot of things kind of started coming together for personally and professionally. You said that this was a week where you really started feeling very comfortable. Very comfortable in your role, and you're starting to know what you're supposed to be doing, and that. Sort of
I know like 10% now, so that's better than the 0.1%. Yeah. So progress. We're on the verge of launching a few things. My job with the COPD Foundation, we're on the very edge of launching a couple of. I'm realizing that this camera is too low and I gotta lean forward because I got still working off my pandemic weight. But I'm starting to get into that point where I'm not fumbling around anymore. It's taken me a lot longer. I've been there in that job for a year or so. But then also, this week or two has been really where I started feeling that I can be competitive with you out there. I can be more consistent and all that sort of thing. So, the what occurred to me was just kind of talking about how long does it take sometimes when you have a life change, a career change, anything like that. How long does that take for you to get comfortable? What are factors that affect that? Because it's going to be different for everybody, I'm sure. But what do you think are some factors about getting comfortable in a new role or a new
thing?
Well, first of all, a lot of it has to do with getting out of your own way. And I am known for that. So when I've had patient visits in the past, a lot of times I could identify, and that's what, it's like first do no harm. Well, then in the communications about what we do and next steps, it's like, let's first stop getting in our own way. And with me, it's stopping the negative self-talk or just assuming or expecting or comparing. Different people learn different ways. It depends on what support you have. It depends on how that comes to you and in what forms, and how much work you have to do as you're learning it. But I can say I'm kind of proud of my gray hair, my silver hair, that I'm in my 40s, and I can say I have decades of experience to draw from now. That's a point of pride. I'm not ashamed of that. I don't feel I need to fit any social norms as a woman to be, young and perfect. And so decades of experience, and I can say anytime I've had a job transition, a role transition, it's a minimum of a year to learn what you're doing, and then another year to learn really why, and then crafting why and how you do it that way, to make it your own. So this time I've just taken a deep breath. I've got a great team that's patient with me, thank goodness, and in really good support, and great support here, of course. But allowing that time, and then therefore not letting that anxiety get in the way of my learning and growing. So there are a lot of variables, and some are intrinsic and some are extrinsic, and I thought you were actually going to lead into how many years of me teaching you tennis, or, just different people expect different things of themselves and maybe compare to others. And we have been really playing since like 2016. But I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that anytime you scored, or your wins or your games were earned by your talent, your effort, your form, your consistency, and not my own failings. And you were a really patient companion to learn that over up to 6 years before you really, got to where I was and now officially, best me. But I, as a supportive, I hope, supportive partner, spouse, opponent, I'm happy about that because I'm not threatened by that. I think that that's another thing about, when you find healthy things in relationships and work, or even in your relationship with a provider, if you're, handling chronic disease, you want to be around people who want you to shine and do well and be your best, and that they aren't caught in their own issues. And I feel like I've got a beautiful mix of that now. And it is really a gift. It is not lost on me.
So a couple of things that I'd love to unpack a little bit more in there is, first, as you're often fond of saying, lessons are taught until they're learned.
Oh, Lord.
And so, for me, that you mentioned that, it took 5-6 years and being patient and all that sort of thing to get to this point. And it certainly did. And it's exciting. But you also mentioned about getting in your own way when you're learning a new task and that sort of thing. And looking back, that made me think a little bit, looking back at how it took 6 years to get to this point. What are the things that were my barriers? And my barriers were, I am by no means a perfectionist, but I do, when I learn a task and I think I'm getting better at it, or I expect myself to get better at it by a certain benchmark, I should be, if I'm doing it for a year, I should be at this point.
There are a lot of shoulds in life, right?
Yeah. And when I'm not at that point, I get frustrated. And I've had this in jobs, because it's like, I feel like I should be more productive than I am, even though I don't have necessarily anything to do. And nobody has said, hey, why aren't you doing more, or anything like that. But I feel I should be more productive, or I would feel that I should be in a better spot. Turn the gain down a little bit. It's just redlining a lot there. I felt like I should be in a better spot in tennis. And so then I would get frustrated, and that's what would get into my own head. And what worked for me to get out of that would be for example, in tennis, I would focus, I would really make a conscious effort to focus on technique, follow through. I would pick like one aspect of technique for a game and just, really try to focus that. And then still sometimes I would get in my own head because I'd be thinking too much about it. So again, it's that whole middle way thing. But, so that's kind of what works for me, but I'm curious to know what you have maybe a different way of getting in your own way, as you said. So what strategies do you use? If focusing on one individual thing maybe doesn't work for everybody else or for a particular person, what would you suggest as a good method for overcoming that?
Well, and this is where I'd really like to see comments from people, but sorry about maybe incessant Star Trek and tennis talk, but there are things, that emerge. And I think the theme today is the world of shoulds. Let's take all the shoulds in our lives and how we may feel inadequate and add a worldwide pandemic and other challenges. And just let's all agree to just let go of those and reframe those and just let's let that shit go. We're not sponsored. We don't have to add it. So, that's a big part of me not getting in my own way because I have all these like micro shoulds, right? Tennis is a
micro should. That's I'm sorry, that's
TM. There are a lot of reasons for that, and a lot of therapy has been experienced in my life, but tennis is a good example, and I'm going to answer your question and not just be like a politician about it. I'm going to answer your direct question, which is when we talk about how different people get in their own way, what things do I have to say about that? And tennis is a great example, and I used this, and it was a lot. It happened a lot. I actually consciously thought a lot about this in high school in my informative years when I was breaking out of what should be expected of me and learning how I wanted to define that. At any rate, it comes down to one point at a time, right? So the best way for me to get out of my way in tennis was that point. I'm here. I need to be here and present in the now and focus on now and the next point. I don't need to think about the points that have just blown by me, and I don't need to think about the one after this one. One point at a time, like one day at a time, or one challenge at a time, or one skill at a time, especially with someone who didn't learn until graduate school that she had inattentive ADHD, which explained a whole lot, right? Slow down, break it down, one thing at a time. You only have to conquer the dragon in front of you. You don't have to slay them all overnight or in the same day. And I used that a lot. I have used that a lot. And I am telling myself that now. You're not hearing as much negative self-talk from me today because that's just not helping. That doesn't help me. That doesn't help anyone. And I think especially with the worldwide challenges we've had, it's more important that we all let go of the shoulds because that shit is irrelevant right now. And so what's your small goal? Like, I want to know, how did it go with sodium intake? Or Kim, did you take 30 minutes a day for yourself, especially in a time of, healing and rest? We want to know about how you all have done and how you're faring. And, we're hoping that maybe each week or when we're able to tune in, we all kind of regroup on what's the one thing or the one point, that we want to get next. Let go of the previous game, set, match, and just think about the point you're in. And I think about that when I'm there. Have I done enough to prepare for my day that I can be fully present in this match and enjoy just being active and out and doing something I love with someone I love, and I'm not thinking about what I didn't get done yesterday and what I need to get done today? I have that set. Can I just be present, because that's where life happens. And I think it's a beautiful thing for us to go back to enjoying each moment. And great comments here. So
Yeah,
go
so
ahead.
just highlighting Kim real quick because she's got the short one. She did take her 30 minutes and it was
Good.
glorious. So,
Yes.
Kaylin says, I do have quite a perfectionist streak. I find myself freezing and not trying things because I'm sure it won't live up to the standards I set for myself. And that's certainly a thing we've encountered in our family.
Let that shit go,
yeah.
baby. Yeah.
I try to remind myself you don't have to be perfect, just do things. And again, at the risk of throwing another Star Trek reference out there, there is a line in Star Trek where it's
I set you up for this.
heteronormative, but don't try to be a great man, just be a man and let history be the judge. You don't have to set out to be the best. You don't have to set out to be the top. It's good to, it may seem weird, something that's supposed to be inspirational, aspirational, all that kind of stuff, but you should strive, no doubt. But don't set yourself up for failure by saying, if I'm not going to be the best, then it's not worth it. Because what's the other? Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the great or the good or anything like that. If you and that's actually a thing that I was dealing with a project recently. It was like we go back and forth trying to find all of these little things, all of these little, find every last typo and all that kind of stuff, and it's frustrating. And then we ended up kind of losing track of a bigger chunk that we found later was missing. And you get so caught up in the minutia and trying to just polish off every rough edge that sometimes you do miss a greater thing. Which also speaks to the importance of teamwork. Mm-hmm. We both right now have very great teams. We're both very fortunate to, and not that we've never had great teams before. I mean,
I've had a lot of great teams.
I think every place
I'm
we've
missing
worked,
other teams too. Yeah.
But we both have a very supportive team. I said there are times I feel like I should be more productive. My boss has never come to me and said, why aren't you doing this? And I have actually said, I feel like I should be doing more. Mm-hmm. And she's like, why? You're doing great. These things are great. So just hang in with that. And so I don't know exactly where I was going with that, but don't tear yourself up if things aren't. Well, okay. So here's a biology reference for you.
I like what Kim's saying too, I like that Kim was taking care of herself. I like that Kaylin says, just do things.
Yeah.
You regret the chances you don't take. And you can't learn if you don't try. You can't make something better if you're not making anything.
Yeah.
And,
pulse oximetry is in the news a lot these days, your oxygen levels. There's virtually no difference between a 100% and a 97%. So, I mean, if you're doing well, then you're doing well. You don't have to get it all. You don't have to have it all.
And that was something that would catch me up a lot, too. I would procrastinate because I didn't like feeling inadequate when I was stressed writing, say, a paper. And then I would edit every line of the paper. And I would expect every line to be perfect the first time I wrote it. Can you imagine how maddening that is? So then at the last minute, I'm forced to just kind of scrap it together and then go back through because it's essentially forcing myself not to overthink every line because I don't have time. And so, Kaylin, I absolutely relate to that. Like, I feel inadequate in general, and so trying to work through that as a theme in my own life, right? So if I'm not bathing in that place, and when I tell myself more like I do now, like, hey, this is a lot to learn. It's a new position, and I'm not going to know it overnight, and I'm not going to expect myself to be the best at it overnight, and I don't mind asking a supportive team for help all the time. It's a lot easier to just get started and write that first sentence. If we go back to that, play that one point or write that one sentence and ask for feedback immediately. Not afraid that if it is imperfect, that I'll be seen as not enough, dumb, unworthy. No, this is me getting started, getting feedback on how I grow. And I'm 44 and lessons are taught until they're learned. And I am still learning this one. I really, 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 really am. So.
Yeah. So we'd love to hear from other people out there. What are some of your coping strategies for getting out of your own way or to overcoming some of these fears and focusing more on the hopes and that sort of thing? in the meantime, let's see what else we got here. We are intentionally probably going to cut this a little bit short today. We have gotten some feedback from some folks that we've wanted to share Fight2Flight with, that an hour chunk at a time can be a lot to take in, and certainly that's the case. And I listen to some podcasts that are 2 or 3 hours long, but in many chunks, and it's not, and they're focused on a thing. Like I listen to one pop culture ones that are a couple hours long, or true crime or that sort of thing. But this sort of thing probably is a little bit better in smaller bites.
Yeah, people who've not watched us ramble and don't know us personally will see this and go, what is this? And I don't know that I want to take the time, and we can't blame them. So, what even is it? And, we don't know. It's different every week.
Yeah.
You guys define that. Yeah.
Kelly's Swellies and Micro Should. So yeah, we've
Thanks,
got, all
Joe.
right. So 2 entries into the merch bank right now already. So.
And that's not even what it's about.
No.
But that's funny. Appreciate that being captured.
Yes, for sure. So where I was going with that is, we're cutting down the time a little bit, but we still want to have a few minutes that, if people want to offer some things or ask some questions. We do have an email address if you want to ask them anonymously. I will drop it into the comments here real quick.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out. So to anyone on the island or anyone that I used to see as a patient, I am not treating anybody, but I can coordinate with others and advocate. So if there are questions you have about how to titrate a medicine, or about insurance changes, or I want to be supportive. The island has been wrought with, as many places have, with COVID infections, and they haven't found another provider. I don't believe there's not another provider in place yet to take my position. So they're really working hard to try to get needs met. And while I'm not an active prescriber, and I will never take the place of that for anybody at this, in this role, I want to advocate for you, or help you at least know what to say, or, take some needs back to the stakeholders that can make it happen for you. So we'll do that. We'll do that though privately. Nobody needs to air anything. I made that promise. And I want to hold true to that promise. So the email address bestnest@copdnavigator.net only comes to Mike and to me. And then, so if you're having, any particular questions where we can give you some feedback and advocate, I just want to really hold true to that promise more than anything.
And that's something that we've both done on a regular basis. You don't have to be from the island. We were happy to tell people, we know that it's difficult to talk to clinicians sometimes. I joke around a lot. We never say in 3 syllables what we can say in 10. So we love throwing around our $50 words and all that sort of thing. But Kelly and I are also pretty good at helping translate some of that, and we can help interpret and be that center person a little bit. I do want to go back and talk a little bit about Kevin. Kevin says, been at the same job for 24 years. Office is very unhealthy right now. And certainly we've both had experiences where things are good for a while and then something changes and things aren't as healthy. I've been getting in my own way of finding a new job, gotten down on myself because upper management is going a different way. I have had to look at myself to realize it's not about me. And that is very insightful. That's a big deal, because
and there's a lot of that happening right now.
Oh, for
our
sure.
neighbor, I won't go into it, but for a lot of people, Kevin, unfortunately.
Any kind of change after 24 years is going to be huge. Even if it's the same industry, going from one company to another, you've got a whole different corporate culture, you've got different policies, procedures, all that sort of thing. So that you're willing to take that step is huge on its own. But also, the idea that, management is going to manage. I say that makes sense, but it's one of those things like, blank's going to blank. They're going to do their own thing, and it's not necessarily about you. And that's, I think, something that a lot of people have realized in the pandemic is these companies will go on.
Bottom line.
We've been told you got to take one for the team, and so on and so forth.
Some people have just died the death of a million paper cuts that way, And
then a follow-up with Kevin. Had to focus on myself and who I am, not worry about the changes in my office, for sure. Similar thing in a marriage. Got stuck in a hole, had to dig myself out and focus on the positive, which is not always easy.
All the other challenges too.
Yeah. So kudos to you, and best of luck going forward. And I think that's a real key point. That sometimes you do have to focus on yourself, the self-care, and then focus on the positive.
And absolutely, lessons taught until they're learned. One I've been learning: don't blame yourself for everything.
Yeah.
There's owning your own stuff. That's an important thing. Taking responsibility, making the changes over things for which we actually have control. Yes, but not internalizing everything that goes awry. So
Owning your stuff, but not taking on anybody else's.
right, yeah. Even the unintentional martyrdom, just it's not healthy for anybody. So
Kaylin wants some merch that says it's the 21st century and we don't have flying cars, but we do have great drugs. I think that's something I might have said a time or two. Need to get the bullseye off my forehead for sure. Which again, a lot of these things, and we know it's easier said than done. And even when you're saying it to yourself, it's like, yeah, I know I have to do it, but there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path, right? You might have to do a thing, but still trying to drag yourself forward sometimes it can be tough.
It's uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another theme with change. I mean, and learning, kind of going back to what we were talking about before, getting back to that whole, how long does it take to get comfortable? How long is it change? When you're in a new place, how long is it new? Are you still new 6 months in? Some ways, yes. Maybe some ways,
really
no.
is. It's same with grief, right? So many of us have had some pretty unimaginable grief and loss, and there's just no defining it.
Yeah.
And it's important to take the expectations away, and just, but power through. I'd like to know what anyone's small goals are that they want to celebrate in a week.
Ooh, yeah. Good question. That'll be our closer from now on. What are your small goals for the week of January 31st? Like, a month into 2022.
Right. Oh, and if anyone doesn't know about the book Kalamazoo Gals, written,
oh yeah.
So our stylist here in town is also a musician and advocate for those. And last I was there, she was telling me about these amazing women who worked for Gibson Guitar Company here in Kalamazoo around World War II, who helped build some of the most beautiful custom guitars. And they were like kept in the basement. It was kept hidden. Anyway, this author has celebrated their story and made contact with some of these women. It's the birthday of Irene, one of these women today. And Jen took this to our local city council, and it is officially her day today, January 30th. I believe she's turning 100.
I believe so.
I have a couple I bought 6 copies of the book and been distributing them, but really warm, fuzzy stuff. Talk about celebrating, some amazing things. And they probably didn't even know or expect to be, but I'm really glad that their story is being told. So wanted to commemorate that on the very day.
And a link in the comments there for anybody else who's interested in learning more. So. Kaylin, with biggest lesson of the day, we grow the most when we're most uncomfortable. I mean, again, all the cliches out there. You fall down so that you learn to pick yourself up. You grow when you're uncomfortable. I mean, that's why we do these things, is to try to fight through and learn something about ourselves, learn something about the world, and that's
the whole name, Fight2Flight, too.
Yeah. Going from constant, it's the fight to flight or fight or flight reflex, but you can't grow if you're always fighting, and you have to learn how to let some of that go and then take flight.
Remember when it's uncomfortable, how amazing it is when you rise again.
Yeah.
Like being down 3 games and then killing these 7 in a row, right? Like almost every time when one of us then takes the lead or wins this ridiculous back and forth deuce, I hear never surrender.
Never give up.
Never give up, never surrender. Name that movie. But that's another theme, let go of expectations and shoulds, work through what's uncomfortable to grow, and Never surrender.
But that lesson did help me. There was one where I was down 40 love. You were a point away from breaking the streak. And I thought to myself, well, Kelly says, 1 point at a time.
I'm an excellent coach.
Yes.
I say as he beats me. I mean, that's what I want, right?
The student has become the master.
Yeah. So.
All right, everybody. So that's about a half hour. We did get started a little bit later. If anybody else has some closing thoughts, please drop them into the comments. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and wrap some stuff up here. We do have, I know there have been some quirky things with Facebook, but we do have one of these events set up every Sunday at 2 from now until sometime in March. So Joe's goal for the week, wrapping things up here, a great way to end that. Ambush my congresswoman and ask her again to join the COPD caucus. Coffee break with her district at 2:30 p.m. today. So better get on that. Opted to just send her a message and attend the spring.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, I'm so honored.
Thank you, Joe. And of course, as a COPD person, as a COPD respiratory therapist, I do not actually have COPD, and I don't want to claim.
We don't label anyone that way.
No, and I don't want to claim the experience that I don't have, or that I haven't walked in those shoes. But if there's anything I can do to help support that, please let me know.
That's wonderful, Joe. Congratulations.
My goal. I actually talked with one of our local people with COPD in town here who's trying to put together a golf outing. We tried to put it together right before the pandemic, and then that happened. So we're trying to bring it back because it's going to be a nice outdoor activity. So I've reconnected with him, and we're going to try and get together this week to discuss some planning for that.
Awesome. Mine is to get 60 minutes of activity 6 days of this week.
All right, and I'll hold you to that.
Get ready, everybody.
So we look forward to seeing everybody back here next Sunday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll go over our goals. We'll see what kind of topic and themes emerge from next week. And we'll see you then.
Thanks for being here, especially Joe. Thank you.
Until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you next Sunday.